The room was too loud for fear. That is what Las Vegas does. It hides fear under lights, under money, under noise, under celebrities leaning forward in expensive seats, waiting for something violent to happen. On June 28, 1997, the MGM Grand was not just hosting a boxing match. It was hosting a public judgment. Mike Tyson was walking back into the ring with Evander Holyfield, the only man who had looked into the eyes of the monster and refused to blink. 8 months earlier, Holyfield had done what most people thought he could not do. He did not just beat Tyson. He stood there long enough for the world to realize Tyson could be beaten. That first fight drew 1.6 million pay-per-view buys and generated $80 million in total revenue because the world believed it was watching the coronation of Iron Mike's return. Instead, they watched his myth get cracked in 11 rounds. And the moment that crack appeared, the demand for the rematch became something boxing had rarely seen. By the time the contracts were signed for June 28th, the MGM Grand had sold out 18,187 seats. The live gate alone came to $17.27 million. The pay-per-view would go on to draw 1.99 million buys, a record that would stand for years, and generate $180 million in total revenue. Holyfield was guaranteed $35 million. Tyson was guaranteed $30 million. The two fights combined would ultimately produce over 3.5 million pay-per-view buys and more than $200 million in revenue. The world was not just watching a rematch. The world was paying at a record-breaking rate to see one question answered. Was that cracked myth something that could be repaired? That was the part Tyson had to erase. Not the loss, the memory. The man who terrified the world was also trying to outrun terror himself. And against most men, he could. He could walk across the ring, hit them once, see doubt enter their body, and suddenly, the fear was no longer his. It belonged to them. But Evander Holyfield was different. Holyfield did not give Tyson his fear. He kept it, swallowed it, prayed through it, fought through it. And then he gave Tyson something worse in return. Proof. Proof that the monster could bleed. Proof that pressure could be answered. Proof that Mike Tyson was still human. So, when Tyson entered the ring for the rematch, he was not just fighting for a belt. He was fighting for the right to remain a nightmare. By the third round, when the fight started slipping into the same dark place as the first one, Tyson did something the world still cannot forget. He bit Evander Holyfield. Not because he was trying to win a boxing match. That moment had already gone somewhere else. He bit him because something inside the fight had turned into survival. Not survival from death. Survival from humiliation. Survival from being solved. Survival from watching the last version of Iron Mike died under the lights. This is the story of the night Mike Tyson thought he was gonna die. To understand that night, you have to understand what Mike Tyson really was. He was not just a heavyweight champion. He was an atmosphere. The moment he appeared, the room changed. Opponents could say all the right things at press conferences.
Tyson, and you know it. You hit me, I'm gonna kill you.
They could promise courage. They could promise war. But once they stood across from him, the body often told the truth before the mouth did. Tyson built a career on making men feel small. The style helped. The peekaboo guard, the head movement, the explosions from impossible angles. The way he stepped inside a jab like he already knew where it would be. But the style was only part of it. The rest was psychological. Tyson did not enter the ring like he was there to perform. He entered like he was there to collect something. No robe, no socks, no music needed. Just a stare that said the fight had already happened in his mind, and the other man had already lost. That image became armor. But armor is not the same thing as peace. Behind the stare was a fighter who understood fear better than anyone. Cus D'Amato had taught him that fear was not the enemy. Fear was energy. Fear could sharpen you. Fear could make you move. Fear could become violence if you knew where to put it. And Tyson knew where to put it. He put it on the man across from him. That was the transaction. Tyson carried terror into the ring, then handed it to his opponent with the first clean shot. Once the other man accepted it, Tyson was free. For years, it worked. Fighters did not just lose to Tyson. They seemed to shrink under him. They backed up. They covered up. They waited for the storm to pass. And by the time they realized the storm was the whole fight, it was over. That is how a champion becomes more than a champion. That is how a fighter becomes a myth. But myths have one weakness. They need people to keep believing. Evander Holyfield was not built like the men who believed too easily. He did not have Tyson's darkness. He did not have Tyson's menace. He did not scare people walking through a hallway. Holyfield was something quieter, and in some ways more dangerous. He was disciplined. He was routine. He was a man who believed suffering was part of the job. To the public, Tyson looked like violence. Holyfield looked like preparation. Tyson looked like a storm. Holyfield looked like a man who had spent years learning how to stand in one. And unlike many fighters, Holyfield did not spend his career trying to avoid Mike Tyson. He wanted him. He needed him. As a heavyweight, Holyfield had been respected, but not always feared. Some thought he was too small. Some thought he was too clean. Some thought he did not belong in the same nightmare as Tyson. Holyfield understood what that meant. To get the respect he believed he deserved, he had to go through the man everyone feared. Most opponents were trying to survive Tyson. Holyfield was trying to prove he belonged with him. That difference matters. Because the first time they fought, Holyfield did not behave like a victim waiting for an execution. He behaved like a man with a plan. Tyson came in as the attraction, the force, the restored king after prison. The world wanted to know if the old Tyson was back. The money said he was. The crowd said he was. The promotion said he was. Holyfield said something else. He met Tyson in the center. He pushed him. He tied him up. He hit him. He leaned on him. He made him fight every second. And as the rounds passed, something strange happened. Tyson's pressure stopped looking inevitable. Holyfield was still there, not surviving, fighting. By the 11th round, the shock was no longer that Holyfield had lasted. The shock was that Tyson had not found an answer. Then, the fight was stopped. Holyfield had beaten Mike Tyson. Not with luck, not with a single miracle punch. He had beaten him over time, in the places Tyson was used to owning. Inside, close, rough, physical, mental. That night cracked the aura. And for Tyson, the rematch was about repairing it before the crack became permanent. That is why June 28, 1997 carried such weight. A rematch is supposed to answer a question, but this rematch carried too many questions at once. That is what made it feel different from an ordinary sporting event. The question was not simply whether Tyson could win a fight. The question was whether the world could still look at him the same way after watching Holyfield take him apart once before. In boxing, reputation is not decoration. It is leverage. It walks into the ring before the fighter does. And Tyson's reputation had been wounded in public. Was the first fight a mistake? Or was it the truth? Was Tyson still the baddest man on the planet? Or was he just the most famous name in boxing? Could fear be restored once a man had already survived it? Tyson needed revenge, but revenge was not enough. He needed a performance that made the world forget what Holyfield had shown them. He needed to turn proof back into doubt. That is an impossible pressure to carry into a ring, because Holyfield had something Tyson could not take away before the bell. Memory. Holyfield knew what Tyson's power felt like. He knew what the stare felt like. He knew what the rush felt like. He had been in the storm and discovered that there was another side. That made him dangerous. A man who has never faced the monster can be intimidated by imagination. A man who has faced it and won has no need for imagination. When the rematch began, Holyfield fought like a man who remembered. He was physical from the start. He crowded Tyson. He clinched when he needed to. He leaned. He disrupted. He took away space. Tyson needed rhythm. Holyfield gave him resistance. Tyson needed fear. Holyfield gave him contact. Tyson needed the fight to feel like the old days, when one burst could change everything. Holyfield made it feel like work. And that may have been the cruelest thing he could do. He made Mike Tyson look ordinary. Not weak, not finished, ordinary. A fighter trying to get free. A fighter complaining about fouls. A fighter being forced to solve problems that his reputation used to solve for him. Then came the head clashes. To Tyson, they were not accidents. To Tyson, they were part of the fight Holyfield was forcing on him. He believed Holyfield was using his head. He believed he was being cut, crowded, and fouled while the referee allowed it to happen. Holyfield's side saw it differently. In a fight between two aggressive men, heads collide. Inside fighting is messy. What feels deliberate to one fighter can look accidental to the other. But the truth of Tyson's reaction is not only about what happened. It is about what Tyson believed was happening. He believed he was trapped in the same nightmare again. Holyfield was there, still calm, still strong, still refusing to break. The referee was not giving Tyson the justice he thought he deserved. The crowd was watching. The cameras were recording. The whole world was watching. 1.99 million households had paid to see this moment, and Tyson could feel the fight moving away from him. That is where anger becomes something else. Anger has direction. Panic has none. In the third round, Tyson moved inside. The fighters came together. Then, Holyfield jumped away in pain. For a second, the arena did not understand. Then it did. Mike Tyson had bitten Evander Holyfield's ear. Not nipped it, bit through it. A 1-inch piece of cartilage torn clean from the top of Holyfield's right ear landed on the ring apron. Holyfield leapt into the air, spinning in a circle, bleeding profusely. And the 18,187 people inside the MGM Grand erupted into something between outrage and disbelief. It was the kind of moment that felt unreal, even as it happened. Boxing is violent. It is built around controlled damage. But this was outside the contract, outside the rules, outside the language of the sport. Mills Lane stopped the action. Holyfield was hurt. The crowd roared in confusion. Tyson argued. Corners shouted. Officials tried to understand what millions of people watching at home had just seen. And somehow, the fight continued. That is what makes the next moment even darker. Because Tyson did it again. Another bite. Another eruption. Another line crossed. This time, there was no way to explain it away. No way to keep the contest alive. The fight was stopped. Tyson was disqualified. The ring filled with bodies. The arena became chaos. The Nevada State Athletic Commission later fined Tyson $3 million, the maximum allowed by law at 10% of his purse, and revoked his boxing license. He had walked into that arena guaranteed $30 million. He left with $27 million, no license, and the most infamous moment in boxing history attached to his name forever. Tyson had entered the ring trying to reclaim his legend. He left with the most infamous moment in boxing history attached to his name. The easy story is that Mike Tyson lost his mind. The deeper story is that he lost control at the exact moment. Control was the only thing he had left. Tyson later pointed out the headbutts. He talked about frustration. He felt wronged. He felt the fight had become unfair.
He butted me again. He kept going down and coming up, and he charged into me. And no one warned him. No one took any points for him. What am I to do? This is my career. I can't continue getting butted like that. I got children to raise, and this guy keeps butting me, trying to cut me and get me stopped on cut. I gotta retaliate.
Mike Tyson faces the
all of that belongs in the story, but it does not fully explain why the moment still feels so heavy. The bite matters because it showed the world something Tyson never wanted to show: helplessness. The man who made other fighters panic had panicked. The man who made opponents feel trapped had become trapped himself. The man whose violence once looked like power now looked like a man trying to escape humiliation in front of the world. That is what died that night. Not Mike Tyson, the person. Not even Mike Tyson, the fighter. What died was the clean version of the myth. Before Holyfield, Tyson's danger felt controlled. Terrifying, but controlled. After the bite fight, the fear around Tyson changed. He was no longer just frightening because he might knock somebody out. He was frightening because nobody knew what he might do. That is a different legacy. And that is why Holyfield's role is bigger than one victory. He did not just beat Tyson twice. He changed what Tyson meant. Holyfield became the man who stood in front of fear and did not return it. He became the man who forced Tyson to fight without the weapon that had protected him most. He became the man who showed that the monster was not invincible. Years later, Tyson and Holyfield would sit together as older men. They would talk, smile, forgive. The rage of that night would soften into memory, but the footage never softened. It is still there. The walk, the crowd, the pressure, the bite, the confusion. The face of a fighter realizing that the thing he came to save may already be gone. That is why this was never really a story about an ear. It was a story about fear. The fear Tyson created, the fear Tyson carried, the fear Holyfield refused to accept, and the fear that finally had nowhere else to go. Mike Tyson did not think Evander Holyfield was going to kill him. But under those lights, in front of that crowd, with his comeback, his image, and his identity, Slipping away, Tyson could feel something dying. The aura, the mask, the monster, the version of himself that could end fights before they began. For years, Tyson survived by giving fear to everyone else. Against Evander Holyfield, fear came back. And when it did, the most feared man in boxing did not know where to put it. The night was never really about an ear. It was about the fear Tyson gave to the world finally coming back for him. In a sport called prize fighting, Mike Tyson earned $30 million that night. But the prize he was really fighting for, the myth, the monster, the aura that made men quit before the first bell, that prize he never got back. For more of the best content in combat sports, stick with Prize Fighters and check out some of our other videos.